I'm going to start getting into it and setting the stage for the what we're talking about today. So I know I say this every webinar, but again, super excited about what we're presenting today because like the last one, which was our full color Wi-Fi control LUNA Downlight, we are again extending our LUNA family. For those of you that don't know, which I don't think is anybody here, LUNAs are our best-selling downlight family. It's really like the best downlight ever made. It's probably the most versatile. You can't really go wrong with it. I mean, it's really hard to like light a space poorly with our LUNA program. They're super easy to install. They're wet location tiltable, IC rated, basically everything you'd really want in an easy to use form factor. Last, I guess 2 weeks ago, last webinar, we extended the LUNA family into full color space. And now we're extending it into a fire rated application. I know for some people on the call, it's like, finally we're here. And others are like, why do we need it? So I'm gonna kind of jump. Rob says keep the day job, but well, I'll do what I can. So I'm going to spend a couple of slides sort of talking about what fire rating is, what it isn't, when do we need it, when we don't need it, and what our solutions are for fire rated downlighting applications. So, you know, did the slides progress? They did not progress. Let's progress the slide here. There we go. I'm hesitating here because this is really important. You guys remember back in 2017, we had the Grenfell Towers disaster in London, England, and it was a serious tragedy. And what ended up happening in that scenario was you had a multi-tenant building. I think it was a 37-story tower, and there was a refrigerator in one of the lower floors. A commercial refrigerator that had a short circuit and caused a fire in a commercial space in the kitchen. And generally, when we do fire protection properly, the idea is that you have fire rated barriers between different units so that things like stuff happens. There was a fire, there was a short circuit, and this refrigerator caught fire, and the fire itself didn't actually travel through the building. The building substructure was fine. And the fire didn't actually catch the cladding outside the building, which was fire rated, which was fine. What ended up happening was the outside of the building, you had your poured concrete construction. Then you had a polystyrene barrier, then you had an airspace, and then you had the aluminum cladding on the outside of the building. And nobody checked at the time because the instruction sheet for the aluminum cladding was fire rated, but said it had to be used with a fireproof cement barrier. Then the building was built properly, but for cost saving reasons, they didn't use a fire rated cement barrier between the building. They used a polystyrene barrier. So basically you had a sheet of plastic outside the building and an air chimney and then a sheet of aluminum. So it turned this tower into a big Roman candle, and the whole thing burnt down. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned out of that disaster. And one is there are times to use cost saving measures in construction. There are areas where it's safe to do that, and there are times where we really shouldn't mess around, and it's worth doing things properly because lives really are on the line. So with that, happy story to lead off with. I want to spend 2 minutes talking about what fire rated construction is, when we use it, and what we believe is the right way to do it. And the last thing I ever want is Liteline, or me personally, or anybody on this call, to be involved in that type of situation. So, out of a sense of humanity and professionalism, I think it really behooves all of us to take this type of thing seriously. Okay, so with that caveat, or warning, or whatever you want to call it, what's the idea behind fire rating? Well, stuff happens, accidents happen, fires happen. And when you're in a multi-tenant situation or multi-use situation, we really want to make sure that we design spaces so when the worst happens and fires do break out, that we don't turn what is a small problem into a giant life-threatening big problem. So we design spaces where fires can be contained and then suppressed. We have sprinklers, we have fire-rated glass, we have all kinds of stuff. And part of that containing things is making sure that the building substructure doesn't become a conduit for flames to spread across multiple areas, and this problem stays smaller within them. So historically in multi-tenant resi, we always built stuff out of poured concrete construction, and that poured concrete construction created like these little isolated boxes in these units that in and of itself was fire rated. What's changed in the last couple of years, which has really made this downlight conversation, this fire rated downlight conversation, super important to have, is in many jurisdictions, West Coast Canada in particular, and really a lot of places, is we're now getting into not only low-rise wood frame construction, but also mid-rise. I believe in British Columbia and the West Coast, we're approved up to 8 stories of wood frame construction for multi-tenant resi, which requires that we need to build these places and light them in accordance with the fire code, because wood is a combustible material. So it's really important to keep that rated. The next thing that's happening pretty much everywhere is rents are going up. We're in a housing shortage, housing crisis, if you want to be dramatic about it, and a affordability crisis, if you want to be dramatic about it. So lots of people are looking to put in additional rental units in their homes, whether they're basement apartments or sublets or subdivisions. And then again, in Toronto specifically, we have just passed a new zoning regulation that allows us to build a fourplex, a quadplex on any historically like single family residence plot. So we're getting a lot more higher density and infill going through Toronto, and that's going to all be wood frame construction. So all of these different applications are basically in multi-tenant dwelling, multi-dwelling unit, whatever you call it in your particular jurisdiction, that are built in a wood frame and require fire barrier separations by code, so that we don't have small problems, small kitchen fires turn into disasters. So the general code construction around this is you have like UL has a bunch of different approved constructions. They're the L series, so L501, L570. But long story short, they all pretty much boil down to putting a double layer of drywall on the bottom side of a ceiling. Double layer of 5/8 drywall generally will get you your 2-hour fire rated barrier. Some jurisdictions require 1 hour, some require 2 hour, but generally you need to put a double layer of 5/8 drywall. And anytime you pierce that fire rated membrane, you need to fire caulk or smoke caulk it. So there's a couple of different approaches to that, but long story short is you cut a hole, you put an octagon box. Like historically, we would take a steel octagon box like that. Give me a thumbs up if the camera is good enough to see that. No, it's not. Thumbs down. Okay, we're gonna zoom in here. We have the technology. We're good? Yeah, so you take a steel octagon box, not a plastic octagon box. You pop that in your double layer fire your drywall. You smoke caulk it, which means you basically create a fireproof barrier. And then you can take a surface mount or a chandelier, luminaire or something, and pop that right on the octagon box. And you've now maintained your fire barrier separation. That steel box isn't, so, okay. Let me click to the next slide because I think this, all right, I think we already covered all of that stuff. Yeah, we'll talk about this for a sec. So there are a couple of ways to create fire barrier. You have condo buildings that are steel and wood frame construction. So up to this point, if you wanted to light the space, you create a double layer of drywall and hang a surface mount luminaire. Or if you wanted to use a traditional style downlight, you would build a drywall box up above this up above the permeation and sort of extend that fire barrier. People don't love it. It's expensive and it's complicated. So Liteline's first solution to this program, we're going to jump back to that. Okay, so our first solution to doing fire rating is the 4-inch slim multi, because what it does is it gave you that slim lead look that people I want to say know and love, but that might be putting too fine a point on it. People accept the sort of flat panel LED look. You pop it into an octagon box, and now you've got a fire rated option. We have that in a 4-inch, and then we recently created our 6-inch version of it that also pops in there. So that gets you your kind of downlight looking thing into a rated separation. But those of you that know me, and that's pretty much everybody on this call, knows that I don't love the photometry or the lighting properties of a slimline type fixture. They serve a purpose. They're shallow, they're flexible, they're cost effective, they have a lot of light, but they also have a lot of glare, and they're not really suitable for higher end applications, architectural applications, specification applications, or really any application where the quality of light is what we're going for. So our best-selling downlight ever in Canada, for that matter, is the Liteline LUNA fixture. I think we've got photometry maybe on the next slide here that explains what we're doing with it. Yeah, there's a lot of words here. Long story short is we've got really good. It's 95 plus CRI. It's up to 1,000 lumen output. It's got beam spread angles. Pretty much everybody on this call sells our lunas, so I'm not going to oversell it. But I am going to talk about how we actually built it for fire rated applications, because there's a lot of code involved in this thing. So rolling it back, old way of doing fire rated. We've been doing it this way for 50 years now. Use a steel octagon box. It's approved to UL 514. You put that in the ceiling, you smoke caulk it, and you hang a fixture from it. No inspector has an issue with that ever. So what have we done for the LUNA application is we've mimicked the same dimension, the same hole cut, the same hole size of a standard 4-inch steel octagon box, and we've made it a little bit extra deep, and we've put some other cool stuff inside here. Why is the dimensions important? The dimensions are important because when you're dealing with rated applications, you can only put so many holes in the ceiling at such spacing. So the exact same rules that apply to your 4-inch octagon box apply to the downlight. So it doesn't require the electrician or the specifying engineer or anybody to really rethink the number of holes or spacing. It's not like you have to redo the math or redo the calculations. It's the same rules that you would have normally used for a 4-inch octagon box apply to the LUNA. So it's easy to specify, easy to lay out. The next thing that we did, that's a bad example. Let me just do this one, is the driver for the fixture is located inside the box. Give me a thumbs up, Nick, if we can see the driver inside there. Thumbs down. All right, I'm going to come up a little bit closer to the fixture because this is super important. Maybe a little better. Thumbs up, kind of. Nobody's super impressed. All right, we got it. Okay, so same dimensions of 4-inch octagon box, couple of features. Hanger bars mount the fixture securely to the building frame. Nobody's loving the spring clips. I know that there's competition out there that is doing the slimline style thing with the spring clip. Actually, I've got one right here. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But basically, you got hanger bars mounted securely to the frame. You've got these 2 screws right on the top, so the whole top plate lifts off, which makes rough-in wiring fast and easy because you can bring in your Romex through the top of the fixture, and it's got those Romex clamps in here, or we've got knockouts on either side, which are suitable for 1/2-inch or 3/4-inch EMT, or you can put in like a regular strain relief in here. So lots and lots and lots of different wiring options for it. The driver that ships standard with this is 120 through 277, triac, and 0 to 10 volt dimming. So it's one SKU covers almost all of your applications for it. And what ends up happening is you install this, you cut your hole in the ceiling. This fixture here has 2 inches of vertical adjustment. Why do we put 2 inches? Well, your standard fire rated construction is 2 layers of 5/8 drywall. But this is a good light fixture, not like the lowest cost light fixture you can find. And we might be dealing with architectural applications where we want to put an additional ceiling material underneath it. Hanging groove ceiling, some sort of acoustic panel, some sort of tiling, some sort of other finish. So you can still get your you can do your penthouse floor in a double layer 5/8 and put an additional ceiling thickness and be able to get a decent downlight installed inside there without having to build a secondary drywall box on top of it. Where am I going? What's the next important point here? Right, so once it's all wired in and everything, The module itself has your handy dandy twist and lock. It's CCT selectable on the back or dim to warm. We have both versions. And then it just slides up inside the fixture, and then you've got the Luna that you know and love below the ceiling. Life is good. Everyone's happy. Easy to install, and then no inspector is going to give you a hard time because you've got hanger bar construction, and it effectively is the same thing as a steel octagon box. We're not asking them to trust or believe. On that note, we should probably talk a little bit more about code. So this particular presentation is really code heavy because it's about solving code created issues. There's two codes that come into play. You've got your electrical code, and that's where your standard UL and CSA approvals come into play. But you also have building code, which is where the fire rating thing comes from. Unlike electrical code, which is harmonized between both countries. So the same ULs applies in Canada and the US, applies in Canada and the US. So all of our, that's UL 1598. That's the code that governs like all of our lighting fixtures. Building code is not harmonized. So for the Canadians, and especially the Canadian distributors that are on the call, you not only need UL 263, which is the American standard for fire testing, you need ULC S101, which is the Canadian standard. So since this is a recorded webinar, I'm not going to name names and point fingers, but if you want to reach out to me after the call, I'm very happy to identify a lot of products that are starting to come up on the market that do not have the Canadian ULC standard on the product. That's something that you should watch for, and read the manufacturer's data sheets very, very carefully and make sure that it's got that ULC approval for use in Canada. How do I want to put this? We have lots of competition out there that import product that they might find at a trade show or online or on Alibaba and don't necessarily know what they're buying. Most of those products meet the US minimum standards for UL 263, but do not have ULC S101 and will be rejected off the sites in Canada. The inspectors are looking for it and they're demanding it because nobody wants to be on the hook for another Grenfell London style disaster. So we'll just leave it there. The next thing to be well aware of, and I'm going to pull up my sample here, is we're starting to see stuff like this show up on the market. So it's a spring clip snap-on connector, and they're taking like a standard slimlet style construction, painting it red, and making the back plate out of steel. So this sort of meets the code. It meets the electrical code of UL 1598, but there's two major problems with it. One is that inspectors don't trust the spring clips in a rated application, because if those clips fail and this thing falls out of the ceiling, the fixture itself might not fail, but the actual install method might fail. And then you've got permutations through the fire membrane, and now you're setting fire to all that wood substructure. But there's an even bigger problem with that. To install this according to the building code, not the electrical code, the building code, once you cut the hole in the ceiling, you have to fire caulk that right to the ceiling. So you cut your hole, you do your wiring, you pop that up in the ceiling, and you fire caulk that to your drywall. Once that's fire caulked to the drywall, you can't take it down again, which means that you can't access your electrical connection. So while the fixture itself might pass the test in the actual installed application, it doesn't meet the requirement of being able to service your electrical connections, which is another reason why they're failing. So I'll say that one more time. You cut your hole, you put that in, you smoke caulk it, you pop that up, you can't pull it back down without breaking that fire seal, which means that you can't access your electrical connection. If you do, you have to come back and call for inspection again. Is no bueno, as they say. It's just not going to work. So I caution anybody who is out there and running up into this as a potential alternative that's showing up either as a stocking product, as a distributor, or showing up on a specification on a DE job, to really have a conversation with the authorities and let them know that, like, hey, listen, like that ain't gonna work. It's just physically impossible to install it to meet both the electrical code requirements and the building code requirements, even though they might actually have the test and say, well, it didn't fail the one time we set fire to it. Cool. So how's that different from ours? You got your standard octagon box, you smoke caulk the ring around that. They do it all the time, normal install. Our fixture works exactly the same. You take the fixture, you smoke caulk it here, and if you need to serve electrical, your electrical connections are all made within the box and accessible from below the ceiling. So that's the story there. I think I got another slide here. Oh, we got one Q&A. Oh, Kyle has informed us that Lotus does not have ULC S101 on their spec sheet. That's one of them. Okay, let me get to the next slide here. Okay, yeah, cool stuff. Nothing super different about the Luna from below the ceiling. Again, this presentation is for people that are used to Liteline products, used to selling Liteline products, used to stocking Liteline products. It's the same Luna from below the ceiling. And that compares nicely against any Downlight on the market. And it's fire rated. What else do we have? Okay, so we talked about installation method, ceiling thickness, above ceiling stuff. Okay, what location rating? Nice to have. All right, specifying and ordering. Let's do this for a minute. Got a few options here. Okay, for the specifiers, you have two. We're going to start at the right end of the spec sheet and go and work our way left here. For the specifiers, we actually, and the people stocking, you guys have a couple options here. You can stock this or specify it complete, which gives you everything you need in one box ready to go. Or you can stock and specify the housing roughened separately, sell those, get them roughed and get the ceiling inspected, and then stock the modules separately. We have two different styles of module. We have, it's not going to show up great on the camera, but we've got one that matches our Luna deep regress, which is kind of squared off, beveled, and we've got this one which matches our trumpet style, which is kind of rounded in the middle. No difference whatsoever in the lighting, purely an aesthetic choice. They're both available in black and white. The one thing you're not getting that you do get out of our standard Luna is the adjustability, and that's simply because there isn't the room inside the back box housing to actually twist the thing because it'll interfere and make life difficult. So it's a fixed downlight application. But what we do get you in exchange of that is two different beam angle options. So it's available, they're both available in a 20-degree or a 40-degree, as well as a couple of different optics options. So we can do a softening lens to kind of smooth out that field angle, or a linear spread lens. Linear spread is a great application for multi-tenant condos, because you can now stretch out the distribution of light in that condo corridor, which reduces your fixture count. It's also really good for lower ceiling heights to kind of spread it out in an elongated fashion. And since we're knowing this is going multi-tenant, which is generally very, it's dollars per unit basically on these types of things. It's a great option for reducing your total install cost, is actually taking advantage of the various optics, the linear optics, to lower your fixture counts, to lower your total lighting budget in that application. 2 light levels, 1000 lumen, 750 lumen. And then we do a couple of neat things on this. When we start getting into architectural applications, all kinds of different controls options. Giant caveat here. All these different control options require a remote driver. There isn't room to get a Lutron driver inside here. Now, we're dealing with fire rated applications. That doesn't mean above ceiling access, because you can't do that, because that ceiling is a sealed membrane. So if you were going Lutron Eco or DMX or Dolly or Incilium or any of these other complicated things, or 347, it needs to be part of the planning process to say, okay, where are we going to put these power supplies that are accessible, that are not behind the fire barrier? Something to think about. The options are there, but it just requires a little bit of planning ahead of time. As far as I know, even the people that we're competing against, not the low end of the fire rated market, but the high end of the fire rated market, don't have multiple control options, and certainly don't have 347 volt options, or various optical. Really, it's a lot of stuff. From a lighting perspective, this is sort of our standard at 3000K. 95 CRI, RG, if you're a TM30 guy, RG of 91.9, RF of 97.6, a P2, F2 lighting distribution, and 70 lumens per watt. Really, really, really nice light. Just the light quality, the light color. It's just, we really like the selling feature of this is it's really the best general purpose downlight in a fire rated application. We want to go less expensive, and we don't care about light as much. By all means, go 4-inch slim mini, slim multi. That's sort of the trade-off. While we're on that subject, I'm just going to knock the competition again for a minute. If VE cost is really the issue, there's no advantage to this solution over this solution. The light's the same, the output's the same, the distribution's the same. All you're doing is like supporting people who don't really understand the industry because it doesn't work. They haven't thought it all the way through. You're smoke caulking it. This works way better. And of course, you know, you can change your trim below the ceiling. It's magnetically adjustable. We've got some other cool stuff. Also available in the 6-inch version. So that's your VE option where cost is like the most important thing. Just use a regular octagon box and one of these. But if we're talking about light and light quality, light performance, that's really the that's your advantage of being able to do the Luna in a fire rated application. So that's kind of the pitch. That's, I think I'm about 15 minutes on the dot there. I'm going to step back to my computer and start looking at questions, answers, criticism. By all means, start firing them in the chat there or in the Q&A. And I'll do my best to answer them. No open questions. That's amazing. I fully explained it. Any questions about code, about when we use it, what the advantage? Oh, how do you buy them? All right. I believe we will have pricing available now. So talk to your RSM, or if you're a distributor, talk to your sales rep. They have pricing. Okay. Okay, Brett wants to know. Oh, nice, lots of questions. Perfect. All right. What is the price difference between the small wafers and the Luna? Okay, so the wafers. Okay, so we got. I just want to clear that up. We've got the Liteline version that goes into the octagon box, and we've got the competition. I'm actually not going to talk pricing at all because I only get in trouble when I do that. But I will say that compared to a wafer, the Luna is going to cost more, but it actually is going to perform way better. So that's what you're paying for. And I'll let you talk to your sales rep about pricing specifically because we got a lot of people on this call and I only get in trouble. Okay, so Brett asked about other beam spreads. There was a mention of 4 options. There are not 4 options. There are 2 options for beam angles and 2 options for optics. So your beam angle gets you your 20 and your 40, and your optics gets you a softening lens or a linear spread lens. Andrew, has stock landed in Richmond Hill? I don't know the answer to that. Any? What's our in-stock date for this?
Yeah, stock in August.
August? All right. So we've done. I know we've done production. Like production's already run through and everything. So stock is okay. So stock August shipping. Excellent. All right. Do we have? Okay. So let me just click on the. I'm doing my best to manage Zoom. And okay. So answered live. Answered live. Max, I'm not talking pricing. Got it. Okay. Elizabeth. Okay. Just the one aperture size or other coming down the road, 4-inch, 6-inch, any higher lumen outputs. Okay, so never predict the future, but I will answer why we only done one size. And it's not our 4-inch, it's actually the 3.5-inch. What's really important to us is making sure that the projects run smooth on the install site. And everybody, especially after the Grenfell disaster in London, everybody is very, very, very conscientious of doing fire properly. So we have a 50-year history of using this 4-inch octagon box in an application. So it was very important to us that we match the size exactly on this. So your calculations for the number of holes that you can put in, the spacing of the holes and the sizing, matches exactly what we would normally use for an octagon box. So we're not at this point creating larger or smaller sizes, because that, while the formulas are in the code, not everybody's always working with formulas properly. So we're gonna start with this to begin with, get all the programs working smooth, and then reevaluate and see what the market's really asking for. As far as higher lumen outputs, 12 watts is the most that we can get into a box this size with a driver in size at it. And so 1,000 lumens is a really good target for your typical 8 to 11 foot ceiling. So the short answer is yeah, probably, but not right now. And that's why. Bill asked, when will we get samples to show around? Okay, that kind of lands with Ron's question, which is, can I talk about quick ship? All this stuff is quick ship. So as of August, we'll be able to ship thousands within 24 hours. For sure, by August, you can get samples to show around. I don't know. Henny, did we bring in sales samples for our reps prior?
Yes, they'll be here end of June and ready for July.
So beginning of July, we'll have, I guess we'll have a sales kit for the agencies?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So I know that's we don't have a sales kit going out with this. We have some displays that are going to be going with this, and waiting on some final. We don't have a date for the displays yet on that. There is not a kit for this product, but if you need a sample, you can order the sample in box. So, but we need to confirm volume for that. So if you can hang on for that one, we'll get back to you on that.
All right. We had a question: overall height of the fixture. So the overall height of the box itself is 5 inches, but you have to subtract the 1.5 inches for the double 5/8 drywall. So you're really about 4 inches above the ceiling in the installed application. So in a fire rate application, you're 4 inches above, 5.5 overall. Other questions? Is the cut sheet available? Yes, cut sheets are available. This product will be hitting our website, I think, after this webinar. Annie?
It's live.
It's live? Okay, so cut sheets and photometry is available on our website now, right? Maybe if there, would you be so kind as to drop a link in the public chat to the webpage?
Yep.
Fantastic. Bar hangers have screws or nails. The bar hangers have nails, but it's also pre-drilled for screws. Okay, if a contractor uses this fixture, if a contractor uses fixtures that aren't properly certified, can they or the manufacturer be held liable? So I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to touch the liability question, but I will touch the code, and I'll tell you what the rules are, and the code exists for a reason. So the building code requires, how do I put that? I mean, obviously the code requires what you have to do. In Canada, you require S101. In the States, it's UL 263. Technically, they're very similar, but they're not the same code. And I can tell you that the inspectors are looking. And I can say that nobody wants to be a contractor or a builder or a distributor or a specifier that's responsible for using the wrong product and end up with a disaster. And I can tell you that I've been through it with, not with fires, with other stuff, with insurance. And the insurance companies leave no stone unturned. So not a lawyer, not a judge, not an inspector, just a light manufacturer that likes to build stuff and is not interested in ever having to talk to a judge. So that's what I got for that one. Okay, so it doesn't look like we're getting any new questions coming in here. I don't really want to end the webinar on questions of liability and fires and disasters. So I also don't want to end it on other jokes that kind of go over like lead balloons there. So maybe I'll just say thank you, and I really appreciate everybody staying here till the end. We're again 144 participants right at the end of question time. So I'm gonna like fill airspace for another 30 seconds. Oh, Max says, okay, here we go. What was the inspiration for designing the LUNA Fire? I mean, there's a couple answers to that. The tons of market demand. We'll put it out there. Up until this point, we really only have one competitor. that is doing a good job on fire rated downlights. So we feel that the market's wide open. It's been a 4-year journey to make sure that we actually build this thing properly. Lot of investigation and code and testing. So really the inspiration is just you know, to be able to build out our Luna. Inspiration is a really interesting word. I don't know, like, sorry, now I'm just filling airspace here, but yeah, no, the inspiration was to be able to really meet the demand. It's not an inspiration though. That's a business decision and a business case. I think I'm gonna say Sarah was the inspiration. That's I don't know, Sarah, what was the inspiration for this one? Do you have a good answer for that? Because you got a business case, a use case.
This was came out of demand. It was, you know, sometimes we come up with products because we think that they'd look cool or they're a cool idea, and sometimes we come up with products because we're asked for them all the time. And this was one that I was asked for regularly to meet market demands. And I think this took about 6 years for us to get. And now that it's here, it's awesome. We're excited to share it. But this was definitely one that came from inspiration of demand. I'll actually shout out to Western in Southern California. They were the ones sort of asking for this quite regularly. Nicole, if you're on this call, she was a heavy inspiration in getting this, motivating us to get this done. And yeah, that's basically it.
External inspiration, we'll put it that way. Everybody loves the Luna, and it was like, hey, we want to use it, but like we have big demand. So yeah, that was the inspiration. Okay, early in the presentation it stated 4 beam spreads. That the tightest was 12 degrees. That may have been a typo in the presentation. We definitely only have 2 beam angles, not 4. All right, cool. So again, thanks everybody for hanging out and listening to us. We look forward to supporting further projects. Product is inbound, so ready for specification now. For our stocking agents, ready for please go get booking orders. And Elizabeth says keep trying on the jokes. So on that note, I will practice my comedy. All right, thanks everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.